Okay, let us share screen. Welcome. Okay. Let's move this. Very good, and welcome. So today is going to be a good class. We're starting a good batch of material on visualization and a form of meditation, which we've covered. We're going to take a deep dive on it tonight, and it probably will continue over the next few Sundays. I will also continue our study of mindfulness and keep comparing it to concentration so we get a good idea of what the difference is. You'll remember, excuse me, that we've covered visualization. Hold on one second. I just need to get this working. Okay. We've covered visualization already as part of the series of Jewish meditative techniques that are available in our heritage. And as I mentioned, we're going to take a deep dive every now and again to one of them when I find more material. And we've got some good stuff on visualization. And the reason why we're going back to visualization now is because Rabbi Kaplan had mentioned it as part of meditation and intimacy between a man and a woman. He went over it very generally, and we're going to take more of a deep dive into it to really try to get an understanding about how to use it. What is a technique? What does it do? How do you do it? Okay. So let us go with where we picked up last time. This is what he mentioned about visualization when Rabbi Kaplan was talking about meditation and intimacy between a man and a woman. He said this. He said, in general, using meditative techniques during intimacy can enhance the pleasure immeasurably. Such a practice focuses the minds of both partners exclusively on their mates and thus serves to strengthen the marriage bond. Couples who regularly use meditative techniques during intimacy have experienced important gains in their feelings towards each other. Couples who were experiencing marital difficulties found that when their sex life was sanctified, their love grew and the other problems seemed to become inconsequential. So again, he was talking about meditation, one application of which is to clear the mind. Don't import any baggage from the rest of your day into the encounter. So that's obviously using a meditative skill. Okay, and here he's mentioning an additional type of meditation. What he had said was the type of meditation that a couple can do when they wish to conceive a child is somewhat different. This is because if they are on a certain level of consciousness, the thoughts that they have during intimacy can have a strong effect on the child conceived. So here he's getting into the enormous power that could lie in visualization meditation. He's assuming that if a couple's at a certain level of consciousness, then they can actually influence the makeup of their offspring. And then he gives the example of what Jacob did with the sheep in his dispute with Laban, which is some kind of genetic engineering that he uses, with which he uses mind. So that's a whole caliber of visualization, which is beyond the scope of us right now. But what about the couple? So Rabbi Kaplan says, therefore, when a couple wish to conceive, they should decide what traits they would consider most desirable in the child. They should agree on what they consider most important and what they would most want their child to be. Then, using visualization techniques discussed in Chapter 8, they should both visualize the child they want to conceive during intercourse. If this is done with total concentration, it can have a positive influence on the conceived child. While it is not a foolproof technique, especially if the members of the couple are not expert meditators, experience has shown it to have significant influence. Experience has also shown that couples who have difficulty conceiving often have success when using such an imaging technique. So again, he's getting back to, with the right mindset, a couple can visualize, they can engage their mind and the contents of their mind when they're procreating, and the contents of their mind will affect the offspring. Okay, so you can imagine that visualization can take place and about other things when there's intimacy, not just what their offspring's going to look like. How would that work? So he does mention what happens in chapter 8. So we're going to go back to chapter 8, which we've already covered, and see what he might be talking about. Okay. So we're back to the chapter on visualization. This is a little synopsis of what he said there. He said, earlier I spoke about the images that one sees when the eyes are closed. Close your eyes, things pop up on the screen of your mind. An important discipline in meditation is learning how to control these images. When one has learned how to control them, one can also learn how to hold an image in the mind's eye. This technique is known as visualization. So you have an image that pops up in your mind, or maybe you want to generate the image, holding it. That's visualization. A simple way to begin this discipline is to close your eyes and try to picture a letter of the alphabet, for example, the letter A. If you know the Hebrew alphabet, you can try to visualize the letter Aleph. Since there are Jewish meditations that use the letter Aleph, I shall use it as an example, although any other letter or figure could be used. So we're starting simple. To begin a visualization meditation, just close your eyes and relax, allowing the images in the mind's eye to settle down. So as soon as you close your eyes, there could be a rush of all kinds of stuff, the stuff that's churning in your mind, that can settle if you let it. If you have been practicing mantra meditation, you may want to use it as a relaxing mechanism. Very good idea. So if you're kind of revved up and you're nervous or anxious or just feeling rushed from what you had been doing, saying a mantra, it could be a word or a phrase, can calm you down. And as you're calming down, then the images will stop spinning. So again, we're starting to talk about visualization. You're closing your eyes, and you're aware that your mind is spinning out images that appear on the screen of your mind, or you're choosing a certain image to appear on the screen of your mind, and you want to hold on to it. So how do you stop all the other images from interfering? You can wait a certain amount of time and let it settle, because after a while it will. And you can also use a mantra to settle yourself down. The idea being that many times things are spinning in our mind because our body's revved. And we're feeling this or we're feeling that, and the feelings in our body are churning stuff onto the screen of the mind. So if we calm ourselves with a mantra meditation, it could be whatever works, a word or a phrase, that can calm us so that the rest of the stuff that's being flashed onto the screen of our mind settles down, and we're able better to identify, I'm going to hold on to this. Okay. Now, just as an aside, we're using the word visualization. But as you'll see, the words visualization, imagination, fantasizing are kind of interchangeable. It all depends on the level of emotion and engagement you take with it. So I just want to make that point. We're talking about the same basic process. And as you'll see, as we get a little bit deeper into techniques of visualization, full body engagement, full emotional engagement is part and parcel of the image that you're seeing. It's not just a visualizing function, it's an energizing function. So that's why fantasizing, imagining, and visualizing kind of refer to the same thing. Okay. When the visual field is fairly calm, you can begin to try to visualize the Aleph or whatever it is you want to visualize. You may have an Aleph printed on a card and set the image of it in your mind. Then close your eyes and try to picture the Aleph. Try to see it with your eyes closed exactly as you saw it with your eyes open. This is a really important tip. I know it's a very common visualization technique for people to take pictures, like cutouts from a magazine or printouts from the internet of what they want to visualize. Like I know a guy, he and his wife, they wanted to have, plan and go to some Caribbean islands for a vacation. So they actually cut out a picture of the ideal, the hotel, the trees, the sand, the ocean, this kind of thing, and they put it on their refrigerator. So that helped them crystallize, this is what we're going for here. We want to be able to end up there, so that when they wanted to visualize it, when they had a discussion together about, imagine us going to this place, they had a really good picture of it in their mind because they adapted the image from the picture on the refrigerator. So here with something really simple, if you want to train yourself for that skill and you want to just picture an Aleph or an A, you take a card and you put that letter on the card, and this way it helps your mind formulate it. Okay. At first, this may be extremely difficult. The images that you see in your mind's eye are very difficult to control. If you have never done this before, it will be almost impossible the first time. So as I think I mentioned when we went into this curriculum initially with visualization, in our Bhagavad training, we do the basic kind of meditation that we do at the end of class, where you're focusing, let's say, on your breath, and you want to be able to focus only on your breath and discount everything else. But before you do that, Sifu says he wants people to be able to count backwards from 500 and visualize each number. 500, 499. He wants you to have that skill, because that ability to focus and visualizing helping you focus, will help you focus on the breath. So, and you can see that's actually a good exercise because everybody's familiar with numbers, but you'll see when you start trying to do that, it's hard to hold. Everybody knows what a 500 is. It's hard to hold that initially because we rush through things. Try to hold in your mind numbers 500 for a couple of seconds. That's what he's talking about. We're not used to doing it. So it's training. Now, one important aid in visualization is the name of the object to be visualized. If you are trying to visualize the Aleph, you may repeat the word Aleph to yourself periodically. You may even wish to repeat the word over and over as if it were a mantra. This not only relaxes the visual field, but locks the mind onto the Aleph. Repeating the word Aleph as a mantra will bring the letter into the mind's eye. And I'm going to tell you something, this is very true. I still do this reverse counting meditation. And I say to myself, it's not always verbal, I say to myself in my mind, 500. I've said it and I see it. So what's interesting is that, sometimes your mind will wander and you'll recall, though, in your mind, the sound of you saying what the prior number was and say, oh, the last thing I counted was 492. Now I go to 491. So even though you kind of lost sight of the 492 on the screen of your mind, because you had said it at the same time, and again, you could say it in your mind. Ah, yeah, I was at 492. Now I visualize 491. I don't know if that's cheating or not, but it works. No, actually, that would help you. As he's saying it helps you visualize it. Another good aid is to initiate the visualization exercise with a contemplation meditation. If you wish to visualize the Aleph, first spend several days contemplating the letter written on a card, approximately 20 minutes a day. This will serve to fix the image in the mind. It will then be much easier to fix the Aleph in the visual field with the eyes closed. Now, here's where we could be going into the area of energizing the visualization. Okay, let's go back to the couple that I know that wanted to take a Caribbean vacation. Okay, he's talking about a contemplation meditation, which we've covered. Okay, what would the contemplation meditation consist of for people who want to take a vacation in the Caribbean? They would sit down and say, what does it mean to me to go to the Caribbean? It would be a warm temperature. Here it's 14 degrees in New Jersey. There it's 85. The warm ocean. I have no ocean here. The ocean's half frozen. But there it's not. Pina coladas and everything else, reggae music, whatever you have, you fill out the whole scene, and that's a contemplation meditation. So that when those people looked at that picture of the Caribbean island hotel on the refrigerator, it wasn't just a picture of a building on sand. It was like good times and good drinks and warm water and surfing. And, that's what the whole thing meant, because they had filled out this whole scenario in their mind. That's what that whole visualization meant. So that's the power of contemplation meditation, filling out what it means to you, so that when you see the image, you're like, you're revved over it, like, yeah. And that being revved over it, that kind of energizing it, adds life to the visualization. Okay. If you still encounter difficulty, the meditation session can be split between contemplation and visualization. Spend the first 15 minutes of a half-hour session contemplating the Aleph, looking at it with your eyes open. Then during the next 15 minutes, you can try to visualize it with the eyes closed. Okay, that's a good technique. It's hard to spend a half hour straight contemplating. I mean, how much time can you really spend? And it could be hard to spend a half hour straight visualizing. Here he's talking about visualizing an Aleph, even visualizing this whole Caribbean vacation. But so you switch on and off. So let's spend some time contemplating what it means. Now let's look at the visualization. Look at the image. We can go back to contemplating what it means. Oh yeah, now I'm thinking about the great band I'm going to be listening to in the club that's in that hotel. So now you look at the building, you're like, yeah, there it is. So that you flesh out this whole scenario in your mind, and you're visualizing it, and you're energizing the whole picture with all your great feelings about what it's going to be like. This is like really powerful. Okay. The ability to do this exercise varies from individual to individual. Some are able to do it for the first time, while others have to work for weeks before they can visualize a letter. With patience and perseverance, however, it can be done by almost anyone. I'm going to add something to this, because we talk about this at the Blue Dragon with our fellow students. It's really interesting. His point is, some people have it easier than others visualizing. Now, it comes up a lot because visualizing combat is a real part of the training. So that, for example, when we have partner drills, let's say we have partner drills means you pair off with another student. Let's suppose there's 11 students in the room. You have 5 pairs of 2. What's the 11th guy going to do? Sifu says, you visualize. So for a 4-minute drill, you'll have 5 pairs of students squaring off, and the 11th will be imagining what he's doing with somebody else, and then we all switch off. Okay. So visualizing, and a lot of times it's hard to visualize. You could even see people in front of you doing what you'd like to be doing, and it's still hard. You know which people have an easier time visualizing? The people that are artists. Because these are people who visualize, like in their mind, the painting or whatever it is they're doing. They're used to visualizing and really engaging with that visualization to put it down on paper type of thing. These people have a much easier time visualizing combat or visualizing the numbers when we're counting in reverse. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's built that way, though. That's interesting. So whatever time it takes. Right, and with patience and perseverance, however, it can be done by almost anyone. That's true. Even after depicting the letter in the mind's eye, the average person will be able to hold the image only for several seconds. Then, like all such images, it will dissolve into other images. With time and patience, one eventually develops the ability to hold the image clearly and firmly in the mind's eye for extended periods. When this is accomplished, one has come a long way in gaining control over the mental processes. Okay. Okay. Let me just check the time. Okay. So what he's explaining is that if you put in the time and effort and you want to visualize something and you want to retain that image in your mind's eye for a long period of time, you could do that. Now, I'll give you another example. Rabbi Kaplan obviously was a tremendously gifted meditator, and he worked very hard at it, I'm sure. And in another part of either this book or another book, he talks about this. He talks about doing advanced mathematics and in his mind trying to visualize a five-sided, some kind of shape, but it was in his mind, and he was holding this abstract object in his mind and actually twisting it around and turning it around. What would it look like? He was conceiving of it in different angles in his mind, holding the object there, and it's as if it was three-dimensional, and he's looking at it from here, and then he's moving over here, and he's looking at it from over here. That's really advanced stuff. But if he could do it, why can't we do it? Okay. The ability to hold an image in the mind's eye is discussed at length in the Kabbalah text dealing with meditation. I'm open to the possibility of actually bringing that into this class with a lot of caveats and a lot of caution, but it's interesting to see how Jewish mysticism takes what Rabbi Kaplan's teaching on a basic level, and it brings it up a number of rungs on the ladder. So we might be able to get something out of it because we keep going over the basics here. But it's very bad for people to try to go too far and to try to do things beyond their capabilities. It's not just a question of being slightly uncomfortable and getting out of your comfort zone. It's actually doing things which can be harmful because your system isn't ready for it. All right, so with that caveat, I'll see what I got. Okay, so the Sefer Yetzirah, which I actually have his translation of the Sefer Yetzirah, refers to two processes in depicting the letters: engraving, chakikah, engraving, and hewing, chatzivah. Both processes are seen as important if one is going to depict the letters. Okay, now he's talking about two refined ways to be able to picture something very simply in your mind and have it distinguished from the other stuff in your mind you don't want to pay attention to. Engraving and hewing. Both processes are seen as important if one is going to depict the letters. Okay. The term engraving denotes fixing an image in the mind's eye so that it does not waver or move. No matter what other images may arise in the field of vision, the engraved image remains there as if the image were actually engraved in the mind. Once a person has accomplished this, he can usually depict the desired image as soon as he begins his meditation, almost as a reflex. So it's like you have the screen of your mind, and let's say it's a letter A. You are saying to yourself, that A is carved into the screen. Nothing, you can't get rid of it. It is carved in there. It's engraved. Okay. And it has, what that means to you is there's a sense of permanence and nothing can take it away. And if nothing can take it off the screen, it's easy for you to look at. However, even when the image is clear and steady, engraved in the mind, as it were, it is usually surrounded by other images. The next step is to isolate the image. Thus, for example, if one were visualizing the letter Aleph, one would attempt to isolate it and rid the mind's eye of all the other imagery. That is known as hewing. The analogy is to hewing out a stone from the surrounding rock. The process consists of designating the desired stone and then hewing away the extraneous stone. One does the same thing in the mind, hewing away all extraneous imagery surrounding the desired form. All that is left is the image one desires. Okay. Where I see in my mind, he keeps calling about it Aleph, I'm going to say it's an A. I see the letter A in the screen of my mind. Okay, that's not going to leave. My brain saying that's permanently there. Okay, it's and in my mind, and my brain is saying this is easier because it's there by itself. I don't have to work so hard. I'm like convincing myself I don't have to work too hard to keep that A on the screen of my mind because it's cut into there. But now there's all these other images popping up and around. There's pizza pies and sailboats and dogs and cats. Where's, all this stuff is filling the screen. How do I get rid of that? Okay. There are a number of ways of hewing away surrounding imagery. One way is to replace all the mental images other than the A with pure white. I see a pizza pie. Nope, I painted it white. There's a dog. White. Cat. White. Volkswagen. White. Everything that appears around this A, which is engraved in the screen, I'm painting white. That's actually what I'm doing in my mind. I could even use a paintbrush. Paint it up. That's white now. You can see how you're convincing yourself what you're doing. Okay. And another way is to, well, he's also saying another way is to burn. Actually, there's an image of a pizza pie. I'm taking a flame and I'm burning it up, but I can see it's just sizzling away, smoking, ashes, gone. I could actually burn it all away. Whatever method you come up with, you could say, please go away, image of pizza pie, however, what kind of a person you are, however you treat it. Then the bottom line is you're left with an A on a field of white. It's by itself. It's graved in there, and there's nothing else distracting you. That is a very solid image, and you've gone through a really cool process. You can see how active that is. You've gone through a very elaborate process of making it distinct and at least permanent, at least it has duration, and you're allowing yourself to focus on it and see great detail. I see an A now. You know what I want to do now? It's going to be like grayish color, and I'm going to have a black outline on this A. That's a good exercise. Let's see if I can put a black outline on this A. These are powers. What's interesting is that people usually say, what are you talking about? I can't do this. We do this all the time. We do this all the time. I mean, when people are cooking, it's like, they're visualizing how the chicken should be, and they're visualizing the chicken and the broccoli and all this. People go through this visualization process through normal daily life, and they take it for granted. So we're natural visualizers, fantasizers, imaginers, and that's how we function. But here's a way. What he's talking about is refining the skill and making it and getting really skilled at it and applying it in other areas that we're not used to. Like this whole thing started off with a couple wanting to procreate and visualizing what this kid's going to be like. So these little visualization exercises just give us a little bit of a taste of what can happen on a super grand scale once we have the mental skills and once we have the ability to invest our energies into it. Okay, really wild things can happen, which we're going to continue to talk about next week. Good. Okay. Let's see a little bit about what Bhante has to say. We're going to go over some Siebold, Stephen Siebold next week. For those Siebold fans out there, these two ones, the great ones, are products of their own imagination, and champions feed their vision, starve their fear. We'll have some other essays too, but he's going to give us some good education on this. Okay. Mindfulness versus concentration. This has a lot to do with what we just discussed, by the way. What does he say? You can't develop mindfulness by force. Active teeth gritting, willpower won't do you any good at all. As a matter of fact, it will hinder progress. Mindfulness cannot be cultivated by struggle. It grows by realizing, by letting go, by just settling down in the moment and letting yourself get comfortable with whatever you are experiencing. This does not mean that mindfulness happens all by itself. Far from it. Energy is required. Effort is required. But this effort is different from force. Mindfulness is cultivated by gentle effort. You cultivate mindfulness by constantly reminding yourself in a gentle way to maintain your awareness of whatever is happening right now. Persistence and a light touch are the secrets. Mindfulness is cultivated by constantly pulling yourself back to a state of awareness, gently, gently, gently. Now, how would this lesson be applied to what we just discussed about visualization? Okay, I'm sitting there. I'm looking at this A on the screen of my mind. I've said to myself, this is engraved in that screen. It's not going anywhere. So automatically I'm relaxing a little bit because I don't feel like I have to. It's not up to me to keep it there. It's on there. Okay, and I'm trying to peel away all these other images of pizza pies and sailboats that keep popping up. If I'm like, oh, I got to keep that sailboat out of there, this is tense and it's not going to work. It's just going to get me frustrated. If I try to stay mindful, though, I'm like, there's me getting a little bit impatient with it. Okay, I realize I'm getting impatient with it. Now I understand I got to back off a little bit and just try again to paint over this image of the sailboat and the pizza pie so that all I'm left with is the A. So his whole idea, Bhante's idea about being gentle and patient And being self-aware of when you're jamming up the works is a key to successful visualization meditation. You lose the mindfulness. If you get him, you say, forget it, I can't do this. If you were mindful, you'd be like, here I am getting really frustrated. Okay, but I'm just getting frustrated. All right, that doesn't mean I have to end the whole session. I'll go back. Continued mindfulness will stop you from getting bent out of shape over it and getting carried away with it. Like, all right, no, I notice I'm getting a little frustrated. Let's just go with it a little bit more, this kind of thing. You can see how developing mindfulness is key to being able to have productive sessions in other areas of meditation. So it's effort, but it's not forced effort. It's more subtle and passive effort. Okay. There's more to add, which we're going to do next week. Now, when we meditate tonight, I would like you to bear in mind what we've been discussing, and you can even take the following liberty. Let's suppose, the goal is we're going to be focusing on, let's say, your breath. Most people they focus on the breath. Okay. Back to the breath, back to the breath. Okay. Let's suppose you get sidetracked and you can't focus on your breath because you're thinking about whatever it is. I'm going to keep saying pizza pie. So you got that pizza pie. You can go, why not take a little detour and say, I'm going to burn up the image of that pizza pie, or I'm just going to paint over, or however you would, whatever you want to feel like doing to get rid of that image. Actively just negate the image. So now I don't have this image of the pizza pie distracting me anymore. I'm going to go back to the breath. I'm going to say this would be a nice little opportunity to develop that little skill of hewing, of getting rid of the distracting images. If you want, you could do that, or if you can just say, I'm mindful of the fact that now I'm thinking about a pizza pie, I'm going to go back to my breath. I'm just giving you an additional option if you want to improve your repertoire of ways to be able to focus on one thing. Okay. Let's stop the share. Margaret.